have to make a choice. Sometimes in life, you have to find your voice. Sometimes in life, you need your friends. And now's the time to give your ears a cleanse. We ramble on about movies. Ramble on about movies. With clever, arrogant, handsome Dave. Ramble on because the way.
Ahoy, ahoy! Welcome to a brand new edition of the Ramble On About Movies show, live here as part of the Badunking.
I was going to say we can't really call it a podcast anymore because the podcast is more
get that out of
secondary.
Yeah, but
Where,
we still do. We do it all.
We do it live. Across the internet over there is Clever Eric Mahler.
And across the internet over there is Handsome Dan Knight. I was right.
We were literally just talking about this.
Right, we were just talking about this.
The one thing that is better than two white guys with facial hair talking movies on the internet is three white guys with facial hair talking movies on the internet. So not many of you know this. Way back in the day, you tagged me in it recently, or you sent it to me recently. How long ago was it? Was it 3 years or 4 years that we
started this?
Yes.
Oh man, it's got to be in like 6 or 7 because I've been in LA since 2016.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we were looking at probably 5 or 6. I can't remember whether or not Eric and I were doing this. I think you had already left before Eric took over, but it was essentially. So anyway, this is my good friend Chris McLafferty. He came. I followed him to LA. I was like, look at how successful and handsome that guy is. I need to go out and like follow in his footsteps.
Took you 5 years to commit to it. You finally followed through.
I mean, it was a low key pressure. I was like, I mean, kind of, but sure, whatever.
You had pressure from this? Why?
No, God, no.
I was like, good God.
Yeah, but so we got him back. We'll probably have Chris popping around as long as his schedule allows because he's a big shot now and such a cool guy. And,
so cool.
And I threw a shit ton of coffee at him over the weekend, so I'm sure he appreciated that.
Yeah, just drinking it in my dog mug cup. My dog dad.
Oh, aww. I thought you meant like Dogma the movie.
No. Dog dad. It's one cute dog.
Right. So, anyway, what we're gonna do is a little bit different than normal. We've been doing this thing where we'll discuss a few random movie news topics, and then we'll get into a deeper discussion for things. But this one, we realized a deep dive. We realized Eric and I never did a top 20 or a top 10, not top 20, a top 10 of 2020. There are a lot of numbers, and numbers are hard. Okay, guys.
We can do a top 20.
We could do it. I couldn't. I don't think I've seen enough. I think on my list, I think I was at like 16, 17, including today. And I knocked 2 out today, which we'll get to later. Anyway.
Dan's going to do a top 17 of his 17 movies he saw this year.
I saw last year. I've not seen, there's no way I've seen 17 movies this year. Definitely not.
I'm only up to 2 for this year.
Yeah. Am I on 2 or am I on more than 2? I did see Raya. I watched Raya last night. So that was good. It was a lot of fun. But anyway, we'll jump into some news a little bit, and then we'll go into our top 10 list to kind of round everything out because it's going to be, I don't want to say we'll truncate the show today because we always run long, but we do have another show coming up at the end of our show. Stick around for Front Center Mez because you know how good those guys are.
They're the best.
They are the best.
Long? No way. Ramblers go long.
We don't. Maybe.
What?
We'll start. Go ahead.
I was going to say, going back to when we first started, I think we said it's going to be, we're going to do a podcast. It'll be 30 minutes. And then we finished it. It was like an hour and a half. We're like, oh God.
It was an hour and a half.
And that's where Ramble On came from. Because
it was. I think it was the end of the first podcast. We were like, a lot of us are going to talk for a long period of time. What do we call it? Oh, well, we rambled on about movies. And it was like, that seemed to stick. So why not? One thing, and I like how I'll get to Blindside. I think I shared my show notes, but there was a very late edition, and I want to get to it first because this affects basically whoever sees this. I think it may affect, and then the people on this call. So it was reported initially by CNBC that Netflix is running tests to crack down on password sharing for accounts on its streaming platform. So I don't know. I don't think it'll necessarily hurt them. Eric, how many people have your password?
4. What?
You sound like I think you should maybe see a doctor. That cough didn't sound too good.
Oh no, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Did you get your vaccine yet?
No. I'm in Ohio. We're slow as shit out here.
Things are very fast when you live in a really populated county, it turns out. So
true.
They will say that go get vaccinated, kids. It's a good
Look
thing.
at that. Look at that badge of honor.
The little band-aid.
Eric,
Chris,
we should have a debate or a bet to see who's the last one to get it between you and I.
We were talking about that on our private group chat where it was 2 people who don't have to go into work and just work from home, 30-something healthy males, just
and one that's already got it. So I'm probably way at the bottom.
Yeah. You have those antibodies supposedly, but you're not going to pay for the test. So, Chris, how many people have your Netflix password?
Honestly, I hope it's only one. I think it's my grandparents who didn't really understand how Netflix works, so I set them under my profile account.
Can you imagine if they time you out?
Yeah. Oh my god. No, because my grandparents, the minute like a two passcode thing comes up, they're gonna call me because they're not gonna know what the hell that means. So they're not gonna have a single idea of what that means. And anytime that they run into any tech issues, they call me. So the 2-factor is gonna immediately draw their attention to me.
Yep, it's my parents, my in-laws, and a brother and sister-in-law. They're the ones who have mine, so I know definitely I'm going to be getting a lot of text messages if this actually goes through.
And then here's the scary thing: is like, you're in a relationship with someone, and before you move in, you're all sharing passwords. So like, how many people really have mine? I don't know. Like, that's a good question. Hopefully just that. But like, I honestly don't know who's still like. And this is a good example. This was really creepy. So Amazon beforehand didn't set up profiles on Amazon Prime Video. You logged in. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden they have, when you log in, it tells you whose account you're under. And I was sitting there with my, new girlfriend, and my Amazon popped up, and it was my ex-girlfriend's account. Someone who she hates. So
even
that was
better.
Really awkward for a minute, and I was like, I have no idea where this came from. I have my own Amazon Prime account, so I just must have never logged her out and into mine. So
that's really funny.
Yeah, well, we'll find out how many people have your account when you start.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, were you leading with that? Was that like, were you picking people up and you were like, hey, I got a Prime account, you want to use it?
I got HBO Max. What you got? Like, that was the whole dating. Like
that's his Tinder app. Just lists all the streaming services.
I have Netflix and HBO. Who got Hulu? And you just type in for Hulu.
You were looking for the little icon, like in their actual profile photos.
That should be in there. Like, I'll give you HBO Max and Netflix, and you give me Spotify and Hulu.
Eric, we've missed out on like all of this. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry.
No, I have a friend who told me, he's like, this is where I want in dating right now. I want to get past the awkward first part of dating. I want to get right into sharing Netflix information with somebody. That's what I'm looking for.
You have to kind of respect it because, people, if you don't have time for games, it's just like, hey, so are we sharing passwords or what? Like,
yeah, that should be the new thing. It's not, let's meet the parents, let's meet the friends. No, it should be, hey, are you ready to share Netflix information?
Well,
you add all this shit to my queue, and then you have another thing to argue about.
I was gonna say that's where they get you, man. Because number one, they look at all the weird shit that you watched, right? Like, you can tell by someone, like, if their entire like for example, if you start dating someone and you're into their Netflix and it's all just like the worst like teenage shit. And can I swear on this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's all like the worst. It's all the teenage stuff, and it's like all true crime documentaries. Like, not a single movie, not a single TV show. You might be dating someone who could turn into a serial killer, so you might want to walk away from that. And on the flip side, if you do find someone normal, what happens if you watch an episode before they do on a show that you're watching? That could be your first fight. So like, there's a little bit of sneakiness to this.
If you are already in the relationship, I think that carries more weight to it. Like if you watch it before they did, like if you're still figuring it out, I think it's one thing, and you'd be more willing, I feel like, at that part in the relationship to be like, oh, watch it again. It's not a big deal.
It's also, like a mother's milk in the boys, where he's just like, look,
I'm real close to this, Brandy. Real close.
I'm real close too.
I can't believe you can see people talking to us. That's super cool.
Yeah, no, I've done this before, and I've had the YouTube up in another one. I can do it here in StreamYards through how I'm working it, and I can highlight comments and whatnot. It's pretty cool.
I was going to say,
go.
This is so different from when we started, and we were on a little podcast ball.
Right.
we were huddled around a blue mic, like the snowball mic in my bedroom, and it was
the good old days.
Oh, exactly.
But, Eric, what were you saying?
So mother's milk in the boys, when he's talking to his I think girlfriend / wife, he's like, look, baby, if you watch that episode of Downton Abbey before me, I'm going to be behind you, and then you're going to want to watch the next one, but then that'll put me 2 behind you.
And this is like when he's hiding from like the law and whatnot, isn't it?
He started hiding from the law.
Yeah, it's close to that. So I mean, to go back to the initial thing though, is like, I think I'm being honest. What's the Scouts honor? Is it this one? Scouts honor. I'm actually paying for every service I have but one. The one I'm not paying for, I switched with my brother-in-law. So my sister and him have access to my Disney Plus, and then we have access to their HBO Max, which I feel like is a fair trade-off.
Oh, that's
like
good.
Like they're about even.
I guess we should go around and do that, because I pay for all of mine, but I also share them with a bunch of people.
Yeah, you got to trade it, man. Like but like you said, like when you're next people, Chris, we cut 3 weeks from now. Chris has based all his dating life just on who has what streaming services.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just sitting on a corner. Hey.
You're that guy with the sign. You turn into that guy.
That dude's really
You want to see Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I got you, girl.
I got you. It's coming up next week.
Yeah, I pay for all of mine, but I have friends who use mine pay me. That's the trade-off. They trade me money to view it.
Yeah, you're doing you're not a broker, you're doing what's the name of that? Barter. It's a barter service.
It's a barter.
Except not goods and services, like actual money.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of this.
Yeah, you should be extorting your grandparents, I think is what we're trying to say. Like, okay, hey, Grandma, where's that $12 bill in a
like my parents? My parents get it for free. They had to deal with me they're still dealing with me at 37 years old. But
I have a prop. So my grandparents, they don't send me money, but they send me these cookies. Oh God, I'm gonna do a terrible job of getting this on here.
We're an unboxing show.
Boxes of cookies. I love it.
Oh, those look delicious.
And they're like thick. Look at how thick this thing is. Oh yeah.
2 C's. Look at those cookies.
2 C's. Oatmeal raisin I've seen in a while.
I didn't realize we were doing a direct tie-in with another show on our network called Box, but thank you, Chris. We'll have to let the creators of that know that they now have another unboxing participant.
As Jack Donaghy says, vertical integration, my friend. Vertical integration.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's why you're extremely successful and you're still out here working hard. So Netflix passwords possible. Good. We're 15 minutes in and we're only down one story. We're bad at this. Ramble. This one should be a quick one though, but fun. Literally direct to Twitter from the screenwriter director's mouth, Neil Blomkamp. Screenplay District 10 is being written by him and Charlotte Copley, and I want to make sure I get the last person right as well, Terry Tatchell. So, thoughts?
About damn time.
So I have a question.
Hit me.
I'm very excited. I also really liked Elysium.
I liked Elysium.
And I liked Chappie too. I know people don't, but I liked it. Has that, Elysium, that's what it's called, right? And Chappie and his, what was the other show? The kind of shorts that he's been doing. Was it Oats Studio?
Yeah, I think that you're right.
Okay.
Which were kind of cool. That plus, the issues he's had with, was it Predator or Alien?
I think he had an Alien that was.
It was an Alien movie. Yep.
It was before, but the if I remember the story correctly, it was wiping all of the canon past 2, and it was going to pick up if present time had happened, and basically 3 Resurrection, both the AVPs had never happened, and that was all set to come out like right around the same time as Prometheus, and then Ridley Scott went, nope, I want to do it, and so pretty much pulled the rug out from under him. And then he was also, I think, for a while he was attached to Halo too, if I'm remembering correctly.
Well, that's how we got the District 9 movie.
Yes. Well, didn't Peter Jackson like directly finance him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were originally going to do the Halo movie, and then that fell through. And then Neil's like, hey, I had this other great idea. And Peter Jackson, because it was post Lord of the Rings, right before the Hobbit prequels, is like, here you go. I got all the credibility in the world.
So all that being said, what was your thought about that? Or were you just trying to recap his filmography pretty quick?
No, so the point on that was I personally am very excited. But we know how we've seen issues. What this thing is still making its way into the screen. From the cookie box.
So professional.
Nothing but the best.
Dude, last time I was on, I told you we were in front of a mic in your room, not all this fancy stuff. So like based on that, I am still excited. But we know how some movies, the sequels have not been good when there's been a 10-year gap. We also know that we've had issues with some people don't like his newer stuff. So are our expectations as high as District 9, or should we lower them for the general audience? For me, I'm so excited.
That's a great reflective question. So I didn't see Elysium, but I saw Chappie in theaters, and it was one of those ones where I'm like, I think if you have different characters from Die Antwood, I think it's a different movie. And I think you can have a different story being told, because it got really weird and really muddled for a lot of it. I understand what he was trying to do, and I also understand a lot of people's gripes with it. So that's what I'll say about Chappie. But I like your point but sometimes you have those disappointing sequels as well. Sometimes not every sequel is going to be Blade Runner 2049. That's a fantastic sequel, especially to a sci-fi franchise, 20, 30 years later. But then they could be Kingsman Golden Circle, to where it's literally the same creative team and everybody's been coming back, but you just kind of watch that movie and you're like, this doesn't have that magic of the original. So you kind of like look at those two things and you're like, where do I go with this? So it's interesting to me that especially I think this is also maybe him being more proactive, being like kind of maybe feeling that pressure of getting screwed out of the Aliens franchise and being like, I'm going to put this out there now. We're going to have a little bit more like fervency or a little bit more goodwill like being generated now, wanting to see the sequel, as opposed to the Alien thing, which just kind of got leaked or slipped through the cracks. So it's like people are still thinking about this. But where do we think this story goes? Because it's like, I don't know if they bring back Charlton Copley. Where do you want to go with this, Eric?
We were promised at the end of District 9 that they would come back in 3 years and fix Charlton Copley's character. Well, I've been waiting.
not patiently, apparently.
No, because I really wanted to see this movie.
I love powder sugar, Eric.
Powder sugar.
Well, we're going to get to that story in a second. I'm kind of saving that one. I'm not going to lie.
But, no, because I've been waiting for this movie because I adore District 9. It was my favorite movie of that year. I wanted to win every award. That's how much I loved it. So, and I've been a fan of his other stuff. I mean, Chappie's middle of the road for me, and that's okay. Not every movie's going to knock it out of the park. But I've been waiting for this film, and it has been promised to me. So, give it to me.
Sorry, one more point on this. Does the fact that, and you kind of brought it up, the fact that there has been so many kind of not great successes the way that we thought his career would have been to this point. Because I think when that movie first came out, people were like, Ridley Scott, next guy, he's going to do everything. The awards are going to come to him. And I don't feel like that's come fairly or unfairly. That's up to you. But is there a concern that, okay, like this is kind of him doubling back because all of everything else that he's tried hasn't really gotten him the acclaim that he's wanted to? I don't believe that, but I can understand someone saying, well, now he's just going back to the only thing that people really loved. So,
look what happened for M. Night. I mean, M. Night, it's similar. He went out, did the horror, twist thing, kept going, made other movies, and then he was becoming a joke. But then he went back to Unbreakable with Shattered. What was it, Shattered or?
You're thinking of Split. It wasn't Split. Yeah.
Yeah, then he came back with Split, and now everyone loves him again. So I mean, it could be something like that for Neil.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think you both, I agree. wholeheartedly with both of you. I don't think Neil Blomkamp got kind of the regal fare that M. Night Shyamalan did. Like, there was a Time or a Rolling Stone cover with like the next Spielberg, like
Newsweek.
He never got quite to that level, but it was definitely one of those like, here's an amazing first outing, and then what became of it after. And so I can't argue or disagree anything. I agree with both you guys wholeheartedly. I'm excited to see where it goes, but I'm also like cautiously optimistic. I say this before, and that's kind of my neutral state, is I'm just cautiously optimistic. Moving on to the next one, I'm going to try to do my best not to mispronounce this gentleman's name. Essayist and novelist Ta-Nehisi Coates, I think I pronounced that right, he's been hired to pen the script for a reboot of Superman that will be produced by J.J. Abrams and be casting a black Superman. That's more or less the story. I'm excited for the rest of it because like that was a huge story. We've been off for 2 weeks, so we actually I just kind of cherry picked the ones that I like the most. Here's the question. Outside of Michael B. Jordan, who's your Superman? Because apparently the studio has been eyeing Michael B. Jordan to be Superman.
It's got to go to Eric, because Eric is the biggest Superman fan I have ever met. So I'm not going to say anything until Eric responds, because anything I say is right.
And then you're just going to copy his answer, be like, that one.
That's a smart idea, Eric. Good call.
I mean, in an ideal world for me, it'd probably be Jonathan Majors of Lovecraft Country and Last Black Man and San Fran. But I think since he's going to be King the Conqueror in the MCU, I think that because if they do what I think they're going to do with that character, he's going to be tied up for a while.
Why can I use Michael B. Jordan?
I mean, you can. It was just one of those things that it's been rumored for so long that they kind of like, it's not. I was just trying to push you for a more creative pick. You can use them, but I'm saying like I've seen a couple that are some great casts. I'll go just because like I don't want to steal people from you, but I saw one. Apparently there was like a list somebody made, and like Michael B. Jordan was 2 and Raul Coley was number 1. And I will say put that guy in anything because I absolutely love him. And the other one I saw was literally a side by side, but it was from The Good Place, and it was William Jackson Harper. And I'm like, that's a great call too. Like there are a lot of very deserving individuals who this could go to.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But sometimes for me, there's some things that just sound just so perfect that it's hard to pull yourself away from.
So you're on the Michael B. Jordan train?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Michael B. Jordan that he has to offer, like, he's just got such an incredible star quality to him, such like kind of a charisma. Like he's been able to play every single thing, I feel like so far. And it's so hard for me to pull away from him, from seeing where he came from Fruitvale Station into like what he is now. I mean, he's direct. I don't know if I'm stepping on toes here. He's directing Creed 3. If I'm not mistaken, that news I think came out today, right?
Yep, it did.
Sure.
Yeah. So like, I'm sure he's busy, but like, damn, who wouldn't want to see Michael B. Jordan throw that cape on? You know what I mean? Like from a DC universe where we've kind of not had the charisma that you've seen in a Marvel movie, where you have like the Evans and the Downeys and all of them, to see DC finally get some kind of charisma, like that's the guy that breaks you out of that mold.
I mean, that's not a bad call either. But at that point, I think sadly at this point next week or in 2 weeks, we're going to have to be discussing the elephant in the room of the movie that we're not really wanting to talk about. But anyway, we'll get to that.
I got one more suggestion for
Go for it.
Trevante Rhodes.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that too.
Because he was probably one of the better parts of the U.S. versus Billie Holiday, where he plays more or less Clark Kent.
Well, wasn't he? He was also in The
Moonlight.
Predator, if I'm not, and Moonlight. Yeah.
Well, the less we talk about The Predator, the better.
Yes, that's why
Let's be honest.
That's why I was low key avoiding it. Little bit of quick news. I don't know who the young actor is, but there was casting for the new Pinocchio, which is Tom Hanks is already cast as Geppetto, and Keegan-Michael Key was cast as the voice of Honest John. But Cynthia Erivo, who I know Eric absolutely loves, is going to be the Blue Fairy, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is going to play Jiminy Cricket.
That I'm looking forward to.
I know. I mean, It's one of those things.
Not the movie, but just the characters they're going to play. I think it's good casting. I'm just
don't you, Brandy, don't you jinx us. We're going to get through it quick. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but we're going to try.
Colin Hanks is Pinocchio. Is that what we're talking about?
Did you say Tom Hanks or Colin Hanks?
Colin Hanks, which would be hilarious.
No, I said Geppetto, didn't I? Pretty sure I said.
No,
Geppetto.
I'm saying Colin Hanks.
Right.
I
get Tom Hanks as Geppetto, and then you get Colin Hanks as Pinocchio.
His adult son? No, Pinocchio.
No, it is rapper son to play Pinocchio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, his other son. No, it's Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, who I don't know. I'm not familiar with their work. I don't know. Let's see if a cursory Googling tells me what he's been in. Pinocchio, he was the little boy in The Haunting of Bly Manor. So I have seen him. He's good. He's a really good little actor. Okay. We have 2 stories left, and then we have to get into the top 10s because, do you want to do that one first?
Yes.
Okay. Eric's all about that one. So I'll skip the other one.
Wait, what's that one? Can I see that one?
He was pointing at his name.
Oh.
So essentially, this news dropped the other day, and it was just the headline, and I didn't even see who was producing it, but it was Elizabeth Banks to direct the movie Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear!
And then I clicked on the article, and then it was like, oh, it's going to be a bear-centric thriller that has Phil Lord and Chris Miller producing. And then I'm like, wait, what? Go on. Like, put that gif on, like, you had my attention, but now you have my curiosity. Like,
or the shut up and take my money.
Yes, both of those. I'm very excited. Chris, have you heard about this before?
I saw someone post, maybe it was you, that said like Hollywood's all out of ideas, and then you're like, Hollywood this. And I was like, oh yeah. So I don't know anything about it, but a cocaine bear thriller.
Me neither.
Great. I mean, like,
what is it? 80s, even better.
Is that powdered sugar, Eric? Is that where this came from?
Yes. So here it is. So
I originally was going to put cocaine, Eric, but I didn't want people to think I actually do cocaine because I am not skinny enough for that.
So here is the. So it is inspired by
James. Yes, Rick James Bear.
So, well, hey, I love. Oh, we went to that one, and it is a true story. Yes. So thank you, Jim. Rick James Bear, and then it is a true story, and this is the rest of that where it says inspired by events that took place in Kentucky in 1985.
Why am I not surprised it's Kentucky?
I mean, it was reported by the New York Times that a 175 pound black bear, don't know why I had such a hard time with that, consumed the contents of a duffel bag filled with more than 70 pounds of cocaine that was dropped from an airplane by a local drug smuggler. Andrew Thornton was the name of the drug smuggler. So the bear was later found dead of an apparent drug overdose. So where
were they smuggling drugs? Because like Kentucky is in the middle of the U.S. It's not like it's like in Phoenix and they were flying from Mexico. Where were they smuggling? Like out of Kentucky into Canada? Like, is the drug trade that big in Canada?
It's or in Kentucky apparently. Which
why are you going from Kentucky? Drive it to New York.
It's not even that close. Well, they were flying, which is how the duffel bag got trapped out of the plane. But that's the interesting part, that it says bear-centric thriller. So I imagine there's going to be quite a lot of comedy in a thriller with a bear, directed by Elizabeth Banks and produced by Lord and Miller. That's just where my mind went, and I was like, yes to everything about that. So
is like the bear gonna have a voice, or is it like a bear? How serious?
I think it's gonna be a bear.
Okay.
Unless we're doing
I'm
so like, who would you have voice it, right? What
if we get like a voiceover? Can we get a coked up Nick Offerman to voice the bear? Like, I want to hear Nick Offerman like speaking as fast as humanly possible, because every time you hear him,
is the bear going to be cutting lines with a credit card and then rolling up a $20 bill?
Can he be cutting lines with like a leaf and his paws just like kind of? They're not really lines; they're more like blobs. And then you see him
smuggle his face in.
Now I'm regretting, man, maybe I should go back into our chat and put that picture of you up in our overlays. Oh, that would be great. But we know I won't take the time to do that because we have more stuff to get to. So the last little bit of news story, then we're going to get into our top 10s, was everyone goes crazy when we finally got some details about Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to even figure out how to nutshell this. So it's He's trying to, yeah. So
start from the beginning.
LeBron James, playing a heightened versions of himself, is struggling to relate to Joe's Dom, which I think is Joe being the actor. So Dom, who is I think playing his son, who's much more interested in creating games than playing them. When Dom's tech skill draw the attention of a CGI humanoid named AIG Rhythm, played by Don Cheadle, the father and son duo gets sucked into the Warner 3000 Entertainment serververse, with the AI kidnapping Dom in the hopes of stealing some of King's Instagram followers. Oh, that makes more sense. I heard somebody saying like, oh, so it's about him stealing Instagram followers. And I'm like, oh, I didn't see that part where it's like, oh no, that they also kidnapped his son, which is, makes more sense for a motivation in this movie as opposed to LeBron being worried about losing Instagram followers. So being a Space Jam movie, the basketball game settles things once and for all. To save his son and escape virtual reality, James must round up the Toons, including a banished Bugs, to defeat the formidable Goon Squad. Reintroduction of Bugs, Lola is back, Daffy, Tweety, the rest of the Toon Squad. I'm skipping over a little bit of their quotes because we're just going to talk about it a little bit. And they'll be in good Warner Brothers company. And so they're making references that there may or may not be coming in and out of other Warner Brothers IP, including Mad Max, Casablanca, The Matrix, and Wonder Woman. So I think that's what everybody...
Did the Cocaine Bear write this? Why is it so convoluted here? Like, it's a movie about cartoons playing basketball. What the hell are we doing here? Just let them play basketball. This is absurd. I mean, maybe it works out fine, but oh my God, why is it?
I'm so excited, man.
This is like a Dan Brown Da Vinci thriller. Like, just give me something basic here. Well, I want to watch Bugs Bunny and Tasmanian Devils shoot at basketball hoops while Michael Jordan probably makes an appearance and LeBron goats on him. Like, that's it. This whole crazy Instagram followers. Jeez.
But that's the thing is, like, I think, okay, so first off, Eric, what are your initial thoughts about that?
Look, it's going to be hard for me to take the nostalgia goggles off to allow me to have a fair take on this, but it's just Space Jam 2. The first one was ridiculous enough, so just go ahead and make it more ridiculous. Just keep spurting it on.
Yes, Mike, I agree. I'm excited for this too because it's so absurd. So this is where I lean at it because Chris, you say it's convoluted. However, I've watched Space Jam recently and probably like twice within the past 5 years, which is probably all you need because Space Jam in and of itself, like Eric was saying, take the nostalgia goggles off. It's not a good movie.
No, I don't agree with that.
You think it's a good movie?
It's amazing.
I mean, the soundtrack holds up.
Take the goggles off. Take the goggles off.
No.
Minus one song.
No. Yeah, there's a song we don't address. It's like that song doesn't happen. We're just going to put Christopher Plummer doing a rendition of "I Believe I Can Fly" at the end of Space Jam, and that
also has like the best song ever in the Monstars rap. Like, come on,
yes,
the Monstars rap is
together, if we don't get something similar to that, I'm going to be super annoyed.
I'm sure. Like, that's the thing is, I think that's one of the reasons why this sounds so absurd is because they realize in order to, because it's been so long, we're looking at it'll probably be close to 25 years when this movie finally does come out, maybe 30. And they have a big legacy, a lot of shoes to fill, which is why they call it a new legacy. So it's interesting to me that they're really swinging for the fences, because I think if not, they're at least going to hit like a double or a triple. Like I'm not worried that this movie, because this Entertainment Weekly article, I got to tell you, it was really dense, and there was a lot in here that was more than just the plot, and a lot of it being like LeBron starting his production company and him getting into acting and all the above. And like that's one of the things, like, I've said lots of stuff about Trainwreck on the podcast before, and he was one of my favorite parts, hands down.
Yeah, he was great in that. But yeah, got to remember, Space Jam's going to be 25 this year, and this is when the sequel comes out. So it's got to incorporate people like us who were in junior high, elementary school when the first one got released, and that's all we could talk about that next day at school. So it's got to get us. Sure. It's got to get our kids who are now old enough to experience Space Jam like that.
I think essentially what you're looking for to hit that sweet spot is I think they're trying to basically do Space Jam meets Ralph Breaks the Internet and smush them together is kind of how this sounds to me. And if they can pull it off, like I love both of those Wreck-It Ralph movies. I think they've accomplished a lot in a small period of time as far as storytelling and character development. Like the fact that you can look at both those movies about like identity and really have heavy issues. I think that's one of the things too. They're not trying to do a Looney Tunes back in action. They're not trying to do just a fluff movie. They're actually trying to have a movie that like has some substance, as ludicrous as this plot sounds. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the thing that helps me feel good at the end of the day, because I'm sure it's going to be fine. You know, we're kind of busting its balls a little bit, but it's kind of ridiculous. But Ryan Coogler is involved, and he is both a writer and a producer on it. And I mean, that dude just does not miss. So let's just assume that it's going to be great. And let's, obviously this is kind of us poking holes or fun, or I guess just me. Everyone's against me on this one. But
whatever, we're all going to do a watch along, and we're going to love it. I think it's going to live tweet it together.
Yep.
No, I do eventually think it's great. And I don't know, you guys, I'm sure you'll talk about it before, but I think this is the first movie that I'm torn on, where it's like, do I go to the theaters and like pay for it, or I have HBO Max? Do I just enjoy it at home? Because it is one of those movies it's not like The Matrix. Like The Matrix, I know I'm going to go to the theater, right? Like there's no chance that I'm going to watch I have a nice TV, but not that nice. Like that's where Space Jam for you. What are you going to do? You can watch it on HBO, or are you going to go to the theater? What's your thought?
All depends on when I get vaccine. So
yeah, the vaccine I think is a big factor there too, and I think it's if I remember the release date, I think it's in the summer.
Yeah, it's July 16th, so we got some time.
So
July 16th. Yep.
Eric, we better have it by then.
Right?
I think they're supposed to be.
They're gonna be two sad bearded guys.
I think they're supposed to be slowly, like, movie theaters will be opening back up, I believe, in the next few weeks is basically what I'm hearing when more blockbusters are starting to come out. That being said, we're going to pivot and we're going to do our top 10 lists from last year because we didn't do it before. Eric, I saw him turn the sheet of paper. So we're going to try to keep this shorter. Chris,
Dan.
Yeah, both me. So what we're going to... Well, I was going to...
He's going to explain the rules.
I was going to go over the rules again. So we're going to do them all, like I said it before in the text, but essentially we'll do 501, 501, 501 of each of our lists, and then you go backwards order. So 10 to 6, and then we'll go 5 to 3, and then we'll go 111, 111. So since we know what we're doing, and if you have something like, say, the movie appears higher on your list, I guess we'll take this from the old one. You say Ramble on down the road, and we'll talk about it when it gets to the higher person's number. And you don't have to say, if you forget what it is, who fucking cares? You just tell us and be like, it's higher on my list, and be like, okay, we'll talk about it later. So all that being said, I'm going to make Eric go first.
Okay.
All right.
You're not ready.
I have a list. 10. I didn't know we were doing it though. So yeah.
Yeah.
We did talk about this, so that's your fault. I guess I'll go second then, since you're...
Oh, sorry. So real quick. When we were talking before, we used Wikipedia as kind of, because it's been a weird year. We used Wikipedia as kind of our 2020. Did we decide was Nomadland on that? Was it not on there?
Yes, it was. We typically go with when the movie was officially released for like critics and like for awards consideration, and Nomadland was released in 2020 for critical and awards consideration.
Yep.
All right then. That changes some things.
That was a maniacal look you had, but okay.
I don't even have anything.
All right.
Eric.
Number 10. Unpregnant, the abortion road trip comedy that was on HBO Max.
I think I've heard of this.
Oh, it is a treat. I am glad a movie like this exists.
Okay.
That handle the subject matter that it does, the female friendship. You have who played Moff Gideon in Mandalorian? I always get his name wrong.
Moff Gideon?
Yeah, Esposito.
Giancarlo.
Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito. He's in this in a comedic role, something I've never seen before.
I mean, other than Community, but he's more like the straight man in that.
Yeah, he's the straight man in Community. He is not the straight man in this. So,
ooh, I'm already.
And like I said, it's the female buddy road trip with one of them trying to get an abortion, and then you also have Breckin Meyer show up in the middle with a nice little cameo, which I consider like a passing of the torch of the road trip comedy. But the way they write this, the way they handle the subject matter, I'm glad a movie like this exists, and it is just so good to watch. So that's why it was my number 10.
Cool.
So my number 9, correct?
Yes.
It's the only animated film that made it on my list this year, and there was 3 good contenders for it, but I went with the one that made me cry because it made me think of, well, fortunate I am to have 2 older brothers, and I went with Onward.
That's my 10.
Oh, well, you want to talk about it now?
You can talk about it now, Chris, unless you're going to have Onward somewhere way higher on your list.
No, it was one of those ones that just missed my top 10 list, so I think it's a good time to chat it.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, and if you have thoughts too, feel free to chime in too. I know you're putting together your list. Like
I think I'm almost done
to do their homework. Okay, good.
Onward. I was fortunate enough to actually see this in the theater. I saw it on an advanced screening. I want to say late February, early March. So I got the joy of actually seeing it in the theater before they released it on Disney Plus for everyone. But as someone who plays D&D, great fantasy story. It's a Pixar film, so there's going to be heart. But at the heart of it, this story is just about 2 brothers who don't know how to communicate with each other, even though they love each other. They just don't know how to do it. And as the youngest of 3 brothers, you pull at the heartstrings, especially at the end, where it's just like, oh, they have been there my whole life.
It was one of the things. The reason it went to my 10 is because it was one of those things. I cried at this movie too. I know you had the brother thing, but it was for me recently losing my dad.
Yeah.
And so it was literally, I saw this movie 2 months after he passed, and I was like, ugh.
So, cried.
This was the last movie that I saw in theaters.
I saw it. I think I saw it because it went to Disney Plus shortly after theaters. Oh, you're squirmy.
So yeah, this was the last one I saw in theaters, and I agree. Actually, the more that we're talking about it, the more I'm like, maybe I fucked up. Maybe it should have been in my top 10.
No. I mean,
it's really good. But you kind of forget when you haven't seen things in a year how good they are, and then
especially when other movies come out too.
Yes.
You're bringing back all of these emotions into my head, and like the fine scenes and how touching all of those pieces were. And the story too is really funny. Like there's so many. What's really good, and I have to say, I'm sure this has been said to death, but like what animated films have been able to do so well that other movies I feel like struggle sometimes is like. There's a comedy element that drives the story the whole way, but then there's these really emotional pieces that kind of pull on you.
Yeah.
And when we were growing up, I think, kids movies were kids movies. They didn't touch.
Yeah. We got lucky because Toy Story came out when I was, I think, 5th, 6th grade. So we were at the start of that, where they're like, look, animation is a medium. You could do more than just kids stuff with it or the graphic adult stuff with it. You can use it to tell your story. You can tell these meaningful stories, but in this medium of animation. And
on Toy Story, when we saw it, I didn't know it was great. I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. Like, give me a buzz. I want to dance around the room.
And I think that's what happened is like the evolution of the kids movie coming in with Pixar and coming in with some of the later Disney animation. And even what DreamWorks started to do with Shrek in the early 2000s, you're seeing these movies and they're putting in those themes that are way heavier. And like, you won't get them if you're a kid. You're still going to think like, hey, this is a fun movie. Like the prince and the princess get together, like however it works. But when you go back and watch it, even ones that like kids are really latching on today, like Frozen, like that, those movies are dealing with things that like was just starting when we were growing up. So yeah, Onward, I feel like does a great job of tackling a complex subject like that.
And it's the second road trip movie on my list.
And I want to say about Onward too, and maybe this is just me thinking again, like more recently, I have like a recency bias to it, but I think like
my list
this and another movie that I have on here that's animated. Wink, wink. I still can't get over the whole like reverse imagery of this. I'm all confused. But like I feel like these were pretty kind of tough situations from the get-go. Like Toy Story, your toys come to life. This is real shit from the very beginning that you're diving into. And they still found a way to make it fun and exciting and something joyous for kids, but at the same time dealing with such a tough subject from the get-go, right?
For sure.
And I think that was what I thought was really, it could have gone really badly. It could have been
this is a movie that could have gone badly,
but it was great.
Yeah, for sure.
Knocked it out of the park. My number 8?
Yeah, you're number 8.
All right. My number 8 is a movie that only has 2 actors in it, and they both steal the show and do it so well. I'm talking about Malcolm and Marie. I love this movie.
I did not see it. Not show it.
It's literally a 2-hour movie about a couple. The basic plot is couple has a fight. the man in the relationship says the wrong thing and has to try to figure out a way to apologize to a significant other. How many of us can relate to that?
Is that who's in that?
That is John David Washington and Zendaya. And she should be getting nominated for her performance in this. She's that good. It's written and directed by the guy who does Euphoria on HBO.
That makes sense.
But yeah, the dialogue is great. Like, it's a 2-hour movie, but it doesn't feel like it. And
go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, and the pacing is so well, and it's so stylish, and it's just, it's jazz, baby. It's literally, you're like watching it. I'm watching. I'm just like, man, I'm so intrigued by this, and I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not looking at anything. It's just like I'm so invested in this story, and it's so well performed by both of them. I think this more than Tenet helps show everyone that John David Washington is more than just Denzel's son.
It was Sam Levinson, I think was the name you're looking for.
Yep.
Did this movie come out this year?
Yep. Netflix.
Oh, I thought we were doing 2020. Anyway.
No, it is a 2020 film.
Okay, that's fine.
That's why she's up for Oscar consideration.
Well, they pushed it. They pushed the deadline to where they were accepting movies that were released until the end.
But it's still 2020 release. So under my rules, it's still
under your rules. Okay, it is our rules. That's fine.
If it's up for an Oscar this year, it's considered in a 2020 film.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
I didn't have it in there because I thought it was 2021. But I on that note, I will say what I thought was really interesting is, to Eric's point, I don't know if you mentioned this and maybe I zoned out, but it's all in black and white.
Yeah, that's the style of it.
So it's imagine telling someone it's a 2-hour fight between two people in one setting and it's in black and white. It is the most unsexy marketing campaign you could ever do. And yet he does such a great job of making it interesting from top to bottom. In like Eric said, in a world where we literally have everything right here, like, oh, I'm bored for a second, this scene sucks, cool, like, let me go, like, do whatever. Right. But like, there's something really good about this story, in that it's really riveting and captivating. It slowly unfolds. It breathes properly. It gives these very intense fight scenes. There's rambling, which we love to do because we're ramble on about movies. There's kind of these kind of backhanded smacks. Maybe not. I guess they're not backhanded. They're frontal assaults on critics.
That's why I think it's got dogged by critics, is because they can't handle it.
But I think there's a thing to it, because like the things that he's saying in that, they come from a writer. Is it a writer director, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a very real thing. It's not like out of the blue, like someone's reading the newspaper. It's like, oh. So he finds ways to do that in a very normal way. But like some of the things that he says about critics is I think dead on. And I think that's another part of why this works, is it kind of starts to deteriorate what we do, almost what we're doing, talking about movies, and there's like, in a sense, there's a part to it where it's like, critics do at times take this kind of high road, like, I'm so much superior, I'm going to shit on this movie for whatever reason, because they feel the need that it's cool, and I think he kind of balances on that. It's a little bit weird that it kind of pops up sometimes in this movie, but the way that he writes it, it just all works. And I like the ebbs and flows, the silent parts, because it's very much a drunk fight scenes like that you've probably had with someone, maybe not as intense, and hopefully not as intense.
Right. Hopefully you don't have fights like this in your real life.
Right. But it gets super intensive. And I feel like those people are out there that have had fights like this. And it's those moments where people breathe, and then, you try to go back to being lovey, and then one little thing reignites the fight that you never fully finished. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's a very real kind of thing that's brought to attention, when so many times we have like these glorified fights in movies where it's like, oh, I did this, and then 2 seconds later he brings them roses and like, everything's fine. This is not that. It's like a very real piece, and it's so, like Eric said, very stylistically done, very excitable. It moves, and I think it's great.
So
it's not my top 10, but yes, I think it's great.
You say it's not in your top 10? Okay. I forgot.
Because I thought it was last year. So
well, I did too, but I think I've only seen a handful of movies this year. So wait a minute, does that mean Raya is higher up on your list then, Eric?
No, because that's 2021. Remember, if it's not considered for Oscar consideration, it's a 2021 film.
Okay.
Considered for Oscar
consideration. We didn't make this clarification. Anyway, and going back real quick so what you're telling me is this is like a 2-hour movie of the climactic scene from Marriage Story, just like pulled, and like we get to see the whole thing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't know.
Remember how we had The Lighthouse 2 years ago as the black and white film with just 2 actors?
Yes.
This is that, but a lot sexier. Because, I mean, no disrespect to William Dafoe, but
no, this one's sexier for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe. Eric, you're 7.
This is one I'm assuming is going to get kicked down the ramble down the road. The Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yes,
that's 7.
Like, so
ramble down.
Higher for Chris too.
Okay, so I get number 6, right?
Yes, and then I'll go since Chris was still cobbling. I'll give him.
Okay, my number 6, Judas and the Black Messiah.
I am literally, that's another new one, so I didn't consider it, but that's one of the ones that like I am. So for everyone watching this, that movie is leaving HBO Max Sunday, and my goal is to watch it before then. I haven't seen it yet. Chris, you watch it?
I did. Again, 2021 movie, but no, I thought it was great. So Eric, you can go ahead.
It's a weird year, and also
for sure.
It is.
What do you
if
mean?
it wasn't for COVID, these would probably have been released like in December in the theaters to get
for awards consideration. Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, Judas and the Black Messiah, because I know I don't want to keep rambling on and taking away time from you guys. All I gotta say is Daniel Kaluuya's performance. That alone is
the way he leans.
Oh my God, it is so good. He is so good in his career. Yes, more. I want him to get everything. And also, I'm going to mispronounce his name. The other lead,
Lakeith.
Yeah, he's so good in this too. And I just love the story. And it's heartbreaking, and it still applies to today. I mean, it's just one of those things where we have yet to learn our lessons. But yeah, like I said, Daniel should win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
I thought
I'm calling my shot now. He should win it.
I thought the intricacies of that movie was very good, and it's not really the same, but I had a general vibe. It has a Saturn to me. Again, it's all different to everybody else. It had a real vibe to me as like a Black Klansman. It kind of felt very similar in that kind of like
the same thing.
Spy kind of way that you're kind of taking all these things out. But I thought that was really good. Also, we have to talk about just briefly Jesse Plemons too, who's going to be a big future, but he's also in this movie. He does a pretty good job.
A great job too.
But I think it's really good, and Dan, you should definitely check it out because all you're going to be left with before Sunday is Tom and Jerry. So you better hurry up and get something good.
Yeah, that and Tom and Jerry, and I mean hedging my bets before Kong versus Godzilla and Mortal Kombat when the big. I know, so excited for all those. So I don't have anything to add yet. I'll go to starting my 10 just because Chris was still cobbling his. As I said, 10 was onward. You're going to notice a pattern that a lot of my movies are not like super critical ones, or especially with the year that I had, I chose to do escapism and new movies and things that made me a lot happier. And that definitely starts with my number 9, which was Bill and Ted 3 Face the Music.
I enjoyed it.
It's one of those things. I would highly recommend it, Chris, because it's one of those things we talk about it, how you have these movies where you think, and we're in a weird period of time where they're starting to do reboot-quels or sequels or bringing things back up from years later. And you could tell like this one was a labor of love that they had tried to put together for years and years and years and years. And when they finally got it done and were finally ready to put it out, I think I just bought it like on digital, and I paid $30 to get all 3 movies, and I watched it and I'm like, I remember why these characters were so beloved to begin with, because two, you could tell they swung for the fences. And it was a little bit weird. Even going back and watching 2, it's still a little bit weird. But the fact that they literally, I think it was supposed to be called Bill and Ted Go to Hell, and they wouldn't let him market it like they wouldn't let him market it like that. So they're like, this is basically them getting to do the ultimate of what they want, and it's done so well. It's another one of those movies where it's like they're not shying away from the age. They're the same characters that they were, but they're showing who they would be today, and it's such a feel good. Like the fact that it came out in like August, it was one of those, not quite like as culturally significant as when Ted Lasso came out, but it was a similar vibe to where it was like, this is nice, and this is what we need right now.
I agree. It won me over with the opening joke of what's the mom's name for the first 2 movies that married
oh God,
Bill's mom first, then Ted's mom, and then marries Ted's son. That was hilarious. It paid off the originals.
So self-aware.
Right, and that I appreciated that. The plot, I called how the third act was going to go a mile away, but I enjoyed the journey this time.
I agree, Jim. You could see they enjoyed making it. And Chris, you
Misty,
can.
Thank you. Tim.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Tim's got us. Misty, that's right, dude. It's your mom, dude. You think she'd go to the prom with me? Shut up, Ted. Such good throwbacks and just so funny. It's like it's a solid hour and a half. It's worth your time. It's worth watching.
I've been meaning to. I just I haven't gotten around to it. I actually forgot about it because there was such a big deal, and that's what sucks about the video on demand stuff is there's such a big deal made for the first like 3 weeks,
right?
And then there's no follow up on it, right? So like usually when it goes to theaters, then you have it. Oh, it's coming out on DVD. Well, Blu-ray.
Yeah, it pops right up, sure.
And now it's like it hits and then it's gone.
Okay.
I know Blockbuster, my friend.
I had this. Sorry, I got the shirt long after you worked there. After you did some magic shit to get me nicer editions of DVDs.
Dude, I guess it's canceled. They can't come after me.
Yeah, the last Blockbuster in Alaska is not going to come after you.
But the documentary is on Netflix.
Yeah, that was a news story that just dropped that I thought about talking about, but it's more or less like kind of ironic and kind of a slap in the face to Blockbuster being like, oh, cool, the thing that replaced you is now going to do a documentary on you. So,
oh God, I didn't think about it that way. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, but it's some good irony. Number 8 was kind of a late edition, but I put Happiest Season on for number 8, which is another one that you could, I think was supposed to be made as I don't know if it's still a double entendre, if it's not like sexually implied, but I think Gayest Season is another good way to talk about this movie because there's a lot of layers to it. And I love seeing the newer takes on Christmas movies because when we were growing up, they were all pretty cookie cutter. Like Elf was a little bit further out there, but like they all
had Tim Allen.
I mean, and you can only kind of watch those now. Okay. Thanks, Tim. Tim did one more correction. It was Missy, not Misty. So we were close. Thanks, Tim, for posterity's sake. But no, Happiest Season was one of those ones that really affected me. It was really great seeing another. It's still on Hulu, Mike. So if you want to see it, I mean, we're not in Christmas anymore, but it was a Hulu movie. And there's a pattern again with my list where a lot of these were like just directly to streaming. And it was a movie about like trying to keep the peace for the betterment of the family. And like, but it's another one where they don't pull any punches and you kind of see it's not like not everything. You don't immediately sit down for dinner after there's going to be a big fight. Like some stuff has to happen and some things need to be processed. So it's like, I think Clea Duvall, I know she wrote it. I think she directed it too. And it was like, I think somewhat semi-autobiographical, and it was very well done, very well executed and acted. And it was a different kind of Christmas movie that really like warmed my heart as is. Did either one of you guys see this?
Nope.
Yes. I thought, okay, so there was a few things that I really loved about this. To your point, like the family dynamic kind of splitting is so unique, and like this whole different feeling to this entire thing. I thought one piece that I can understand, and I know it rubbed some people the wrong way. Sorry, I got a big knee, so I kicked my.
You're excited. We get it.
Yeah. It was tough because you'll watch that movie, and at times you're like, "What are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
And there's also something
We've
really
all
interesting.
been there.
Yeah. What I love, and I've been waiting ever since I heard that he was in this movie, I was waiting to see where he goes from Schitt's Creek. But seeing Dan Levy, sorry, he's got a smaller part, but the part that he has just resonated and brought the whole damn thing home, and it was so strong. And it was like,
you think he's a token. It literally, he's in the way he's written in the beginning of the movie, his character comes off as more of a token, and then it's paid off in the third act so beautifully.
And I think that's what changed it for me, because it was like the whole time you're like so aggravated that this person isn't doing what they're, and then all of a sudden it comes full circle, and you're like, oh, that's so cute, actually. That's so sweet.
And you get it. It clicks. And especially for us sitting here, 3 white cisgendered men with beards, like this is something that we can watch and we can view and be like, I appreciate that this movie exists because I think it's important that we get that point of view that is not ours. Like it's so important that none of us are ever going to really experience. We'll experience a situation where there's uncomfortableness and like not being able to communicate in a way that we really want to, but we will never know exactly this story. That's something that none of us here will ever be able to get.
Nope.
So that was my 8. My 7, this probably won't surprise Eric, or maybe not surprise other people, but my 7 was Sonic the Hedgehog. I love that fucking movie.
It's great.
Especially
in a 2020 year where everything is shit. That's a great movie to be happy about.
Like, and it's one of those things
I saw it in the theater. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
And to think that it was supposed to come out like 4 months previously with like a weird. I remember being very vehemently against them going back to change it, but then having seen the new version, I'm like, it was one of the times the internet reacted and the studio reacted and actually made a correction, because I think if you're I think you could like wind up in a weird place in the uncanny valley if you have Sonic looking too human with like human teeth, and like they're trying to anthropomorphize him too much that he doesn't look cartoonish enough. It won't be, there's a different category that your brain will subconsciously put that movie into, where it's like, oh, this is the real world, as opposed to a hyper reality where this hedgehog can run through stuff. And like you have Jim Carrey going back to 90s Jim Carrey and like eating all the scenery super over the top. And then you get James Marsden, because everyone knows I'm a Mars stan. So let's see Chris is like, why'd I come on this fucking show?
Chris is done. He's out.
Well, I have another meeting to go to now.
Guys, gotta go.
But yeah, so I clearly, you guys don't have to have Sonic as high as I did. No, but thanks for having my back, Drew.
But what I really do love about that is that if there was ever a movie to put Sonic in your top 10, this is it, right? Like there's limited releases. This has been a shitty year. That's a very happy movie. It was done really well. You said the same thing about Jim Carrey. No, I totally get it. I was really happy at it. And if I only saw 17 movies this year, it would probably be in my top 10 as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Same here.
I might be at 20. I don't know. I'm not counting. They're over here on the other screen.
Chris, get backhand.
Thank you. You missed this.
I had other shit going on, Chris. God damn it.
No, I know.
So this is, and Chris, you'll probably say it again, but then my number 6 became The Trial of the Chicago 7. So if it's in your 5 or higher, then we'll talk about it later. Ramble.
Yes.
Ramble on down the road. All right, Chris, then what's your 10?
I was hoping that I would get to use that. Otherwise, like, what a waste.
Dude, that was perfect. I love it. I love the prop. You're all about the props today.
I don't mean to be. It's just fun. Wait, let me make 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cool. All right, cool. So before I get into my top 10, because I like to ramble, and that's why we do here, I just want to say the ones that just missed. Onward was right there. And I know you're going to ramble on this one.
Sure. Well, you can also hold them. You can hold them for the end if you want, because you don't know if it's going to be higher in mine or higher in Eric's. So we can talk about it at the very end if you want.
Then I will hold them.
Yeah, hold them for now.
Hold up the sign.
Okay.
There's more. Yeah, ramble on for your honorable mentions.
Oh, okay, Chris. Yeah, I will ramble on. So we're starting at 5, correct?
We're starting at 10. You're 10, and then going upwards. Okay. 9, 8, 7, 6.
I'm starting at 10. I'm starting at 5.
Starting at
right?
10.
Starting at 10, and you're doing your bottom 5 in reverse order. This shouldn't be that complicated.
From 10, 9 to 5, right?
Yes, 10,
9,
9,
8, 7, 6.
If you need, I will cue you. So, Chris, what is your number 10 fucking movie?
Perfect. There it is.
Yeah.
10 is One Night in Miami. Anyone seen this one?
Yes, it was close consideration.
Do I have to ramble on? Or okay, great.
No.
I don't know. I thought this was very similar to me in Judas too, where you.
You're right, Tim.
There you go. One Night in Miami, I thought was a great job of seeing thing that we take for granted as like black and white, right? We think that everyone is in this type of vibe is seeing things one way or another, and we don't ever really take into consideration all the intricacies that are going on in this kind of 1950s. Is that when it was? 1950s, maybe earlier.
No, it was 1950s.
Great. Good job, smart Chris. So I thought it was really interesting because you don't really think about it that way. It's really well acted, really well directed. Again, it's like a play. There's 4 main characters in one hotel room, and that's generally the gist of the entire thing. But the level of character development I thought in that was great. Each one of these characters.
64, I double checked. Yep.
Go on.
So that changes everything I was saying.
It does.
No, it's really good that we got that right. I like a great job of showing all of these different perspectives, and each one of these characters really does have a different perspective on how to properly, move forward the movement. And I thought that was really interesting because for so many people, it's this or this, or we just think that this was the right way to do it. And you don't really take into consideration that there's so much more to lose for some people than there is others. And I thought that was, or the different motives for each individual person. And I thought that was really brilliantly portrayed. And I know it's kind of a condensed version of true events, but I thought the way that they played the whole thing out really changed how I look at things. And that's why I think, one, that's already important. If a movie changes the way that you look at things, then it should be it's a very important film. But like the acting and the directing and the settings and the scenes and everything and how it was built up to have these kind of emotional powerhouses similar to Malcolm and Marie, where it's not action, it's all conversation within one spot. That's what made it really great for me, and that's why I had it at number 10.
Love it.
I don't know if Eric has anything.
I was going to say, like I said, it's one of those ones that was close to it, because when I was watching, it's like, man, I think this would actually make a better play than a movie. And then I looked it up. It is actually based on a play. So that's why it felt like that. And the guy who played Cassius Clay, I mean, that's a hard role for anyone to play. I thought he did a good job with it. And just to hear Leslie Odom Jr. saying change is going to come is worth it.
Yep. That was good.
Right,
and that was so, Dan, get on that. It's Amazon. I'll give you my login if you need it.
Add it to the list. What's your 9?
Number 9, I think it's going to get rambled on. Soul.
Not on my list, actually. Late cut. Late cut.
All right. What I liked about Soul was just kind of again, it goes back to Onward, but there's like this very real, very serious thing here with someone dying. And, also like the dreams, like this was always my dream to do this. This is because it also talks about like where we are as human beings, like what kinds of things are we willing to sacrifice to get our dreams, right? Because especially like the three of us, I feel like at a very good area where at some point, there's some things that we're going to have to start to say, well, our dreams, this used to be my dream. It's no longer my dream. Now I want to have a family, or now I want the house in Ohio instead of a tiny ass apartment in Los Angeles. Like I'm in my mid-30s. Get me the hell out of
here. Sorry, the look between mine and Eric's face while you were going through that was just great.
As I am in that house in Ohio.
And we're in tiny ass apartments in LA.
And I think like that part really resonated with me, and that could just be like an age thing too of where we're at. But like, they retouched upon some of Inside Out, which, brings back great memories. But I just think the realization and just, it brings levity to the situation and everything else. Oh yeah.
Mike is with you.
There we go. That makes me feel very validated, because when you guys said it wasn't in your top 10, I felt like I was stupid for a minute.
No. Have your opinion. But
yeah, that's kind of where I had it. I'm not going to ramble on too much more about that movie, but
we've all seen it. I think the reason it was one of those things that like I didn't identify. It was one of those ones that was so dense. I think when I go back and when I revisit it more, it'll probably identify upon rewatch. I'm going to be discovering all those layers. I really enjoyed it for the first time for what it was, but it was not where I was at that point in my life. I'm like, if I make this list 6 months from now, it's probably going to look different. You know what I mean?
I really liked it. The only reason it didn't make my top 10 is because like it was really this or Onward for me. But the only reason it didn't make mine is only because the second act, I didn't like that whole body swap thing in the middle of it. Yeah. That was my only beef with it. Hopefully, my another bold prediction: this is going to win best score. Soul. Trent Reznor gets another.
Isn't that crazy? Trent Reznor, like the jazz music to that too. It's like,
Trent Reznor and John Baptiste are going to win an Oscar for best score. Who would have thought those two?
25 years ago. Hey, Trent Reznor is going to have multiple Oscars,
and for an animated film.
For an animated film, and they're going to be like, "Fuck you, you're wrong."
It's like PG. It's not a dark animated film,
right? It's not like an animated version for "Fuck You Like an Animal." It's a real animated kids movie.
All right, Chris, your number 8.
Speaking of Trent Reznor, let's move to my number 8, which is Mank.
Okay.
He did the score for that one too, right? I just assume it's
yes, he did.
He did the score. Yeah.
I another one I haven't watched. Pure honesty. I think Eric watched it.
I did.
Is it? Can I talk, or are we rambling?
Yeah, you can go ahead and talk about it.
All right. I have just like, I guess we call him stands. I'm a stand for David Fincher.
We know.
I know. Sorry,
these people don't know.
I can't say enough about like how Fincher to me I think he's one of the greatest directors. The style, the way that he's able to play with, again, going into some of these darker themes and finding them to be a little bit more digestible and not just using it. Like we've seen films, like Saw is a great example. They take it and they just run with it and it just becomes overly chaotic, where I think he does a really good job with some of the stuff he did in Seven and keeping it, character based and really telling the story. And with Mank, it's not what I wanted. I was really hoping Mank was going to be number one on my film list this year, coming out of Fincher. And so I think it's not as great as his past films. There's a little bit of bore to it. But I think the story in itself of writing it and really kind of what Hollywood is and these undercuts and everyone's like, again, going back to like what our dreams are, wanting to be known, wanting to be made, wanting to do all of these things. I think it was really on that. And Fincher just has such a great vision. I love his style, the way he shoots films. And so, obviously I'm a little biased towards that and it helps, but I think that's where it stood for me. I thought the performances were great. Gary Oldman, is pretty much in a bed the whole time, but I still felt him in a strong way. And so like, I thought, that was pretty, if you're stuck in one place and you can still do a hell of a job and move me, then, that's great acting. But yeah, I think the story could have been better. It could have been a little bit more interesting, but I still think it had enough to get it in the top 10 for me.
Yeah, for sure. Eric, do you have strong thoughts on Mank?
My issue with Mank was the script. I thought David Fincher directed the hell out of it. The cinematography is beautiful. I love the way it looked, but it's just the story. I could not care about it, unfortunately. Like, I'm not to say like this movie sucks. It's like I was not emotionally invested in it, but I mean, for directing and performances, yes, David Fincher is great. Their actors are great. I just wish they had better material.
Gotcha.
And what's interesting to me on that, and I'm sure David feels the same. David, we're on a first name basis.
You guys are on a first name basis. It's
I'm
Mr.
texting him right now.
We're in LA, so like proximity basis, I can go.
David.
I think the script was from his dad. And I think there's something to be said about that. He didn't really want to mess with that. So I thought that was a nice touch. And coming full circle to Ramble On this is about Citizen Kane.
Yep.
Which was the first movie we ever talked about on Ramble On.
First movie we ever talked about. We revisited it because I had to watch it a bunch for film classes.
That guy.
Yeah. It was I think that you might have that episode somewhere. I think that's one of the few. I think we did like 10 or 12 episodes. You might. I have all of our old stuff, but I have to rotate it. Anyway, so that was your 8?
Yeah, sorry. I'll try to move faster. 7 is Palm Springs.
Yeah, Ramble On. I think Eric had his whiteboard app. Ramble On
down the road.
Down the road involved. Nicely done, my friend.
So then your 6. What is your 6? This will be the last one we do in this little nugget.
Nuggets. So number 6 is Invisible Man.
Ooh, okay.
Actually, that is my number. I think it's my number 5. So we could talk about it.
That would be perfect because we're going to go back to Eric in a sec. And it's another one I have not seen. So we're going to.
It was the last movie I saw in the theaters.
We'll double up on Brandy because Brandy said Invisible Man's her number 1. So it's not going to be on my list. And this is where it is on the 2 of ours. And then we'll get to this later, Brandy. So Invisible Man, because I've heard nothing but stellar things about this movie.
I mean, when you first hear about Invisible, maybe you should talk about it first since you have it higher.
Well, I was going to say is when I heard they were redoing the Dark Universe, it was going to be Blumhouse was doing it, and Elizabeth Moss was going to be the lead. I was just like, wait, how are they going to do this? How are they going to make this work? They make it work so well. It was a haunting story of a woman being stalked, and just Elizabeth Moss, just her facial work alone in this movie is just so haunting and beautiful at the same time. The way she's able to contort her face at times. The restaurant sequence, Chris, you know what I'm talking about. Is just one of my favorite sequences in the whole year. And also the way they were able to do the Invisible Man makes sense because they are trying to do it in a realistic way and it works. Like it's not anything crazy. it's practical and it's smart, and just like the cast is great, and it's just I was literally on the edge of my seat the entire time, besides wiping everything around me because it's around that time. But it's just I loved it, and again, just watch alone for her facial reactions. It's haunting and beautiful at the same time.
Invisible Man to me, for all of those reasons that you just said, is why it's in my top 10. We really have to talk about what they did such a great job with, and it's the gaslighting, right?
Yep.
It's the gaslighting part of this, and that's really what we're talking about here, is this movie put into a 2-hour visual what women have had to go through for so long, especially in Hollywood. And I'm not the right person to talk about it because, like, I as Dan said, we're in the wrong
again.
Right? White bearded dude. But the opportunity that I thought it shed light on for so many people was the idea that so many people don't really understand, like, the gaslighting, right? You talk to like not a lot of people, but let's just say people, and they don't quite understand it. You show them this movie and it brings it to light. And I thought they did such a great job of taking this really high end concept that's really affecting so many people in this world and putting it into a big budget tentpole horror film like this.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was that big. I want to say it was like 30 or something. It was pretty low.
I mean, but still, they're taking a risk telling this gaslighting story set in this horror setting.
Agreed.
With the actors that they have. And
Invisible Man is a pretty well-known thing. It's part of this bigger universe. So, like, it's the same as like an Avengers movie being along this line. Maybe not as big, but it's a franchise. And for them to take that shot, I thought was ballsy. I thought they executed it really well. And better to stand in for that than, Handmaid's Tale, Elizabeth Moss. And I thought that was great casting. And I thought all the way around, it was scary as shit.
Yes.
It was stylistic, right? So like so many times horror films, you get one or
the other. Yeah.
But this one, you got scares, you got actual heart, you got a great story, a smart story. To me, that's why it was in my top 6. The more I'm talking about it, sounds like it should be in my top 5. Maybe it will be. Tomorrow I might wake up and feel different.
Right, you might change it
5 minutes before we did it, but
you're not allowed to change it. Sorry, it's concrete now, set in stone.
You said it on the internet. The
Internet's forever. So that was Chris's 6, Eric's 5. Eric, what is your 4?
4, Sound of Metal.
You see it? Oh, rambling on down. Damn it. See, this is I got a chance to watch 2 movies for this particular show, and that was the one I wanted to get to and didn't. So I will probably be regretting that shortly. Anyway, Eric, your 3.
The Five Bloods.
Another one I haven't seen.
I've seen it. You can have it though. Yeah.
Okay. Spike Lee's been on a roll lately, and I'm so happy about that with this and Black Klansman. But Delroy, he needs to get nominated. His performance is just heartbreaking. It is painful, and it's just everything. And then you also have Chadwick Boseman in this, which also breaks your heart because this is I think it's the second to last film he did.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he was filming this in Hawaii in the extreme heat, and just to see what he physically had to go through to do this, they give a performance that should be under Oscar consideration. And so much respect for that man.
He'll probably get submitted for Ma Rainey's though. I think over that.
That would be for lead actor. And The Five Bloods, it's supporting actor. He's a supporting actor in this. But the story that Spike Lee tells in this, and one thing I loved it because it was also what I like to call the anti-Irishman, because when they do the flashbacks to being in Nam, he doesn't de-age them. It's literally just them. Just read. It's more or less like I viewed it as just like them sitting around telling the stories of what it was like being in the war. And then I got to bring up the actor's name. I want to make sure I'm doing it justice.
We don't know, Mike. I don't know if it was a Golden Globes thing that he literally got snubbed for, or but Oscars we should know soon.
Monday. Delroy Lindo. That's it.
Yeah, Delroy Lindo. I had it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't looking at that.
You had it right. You said it right the first time. I would have.
Yeah, Delroy Lindo. Yeah, he was snubbed for the Golden Gloves, but he should be getting some Oscar love. His performance, because it's like literally he's going through, man. He's going through grief so hard and everything. He's regretting everything he's done, like. But at the same time, it's like the treasure Sierra Madre, where he's like, they found this gold. What are they going to do with it? So it's like them trying to plead with everything.
I agree.
It just see it for his performance, but The Five Bloods is my number 3.
You got anything to add, Chris?
Yeah, it was one of those movies that I'm watching it and it's really good, and I felt like I wrapped it up and I was like, it didn't move me the way that I feel like it should have. Like, it's one of those ones that I need to rewatch, and it felt like the first wave, for whatever reason, I just I don't know if I was mentally checked out or what the hell I was doing. But I keep hearing like it's great, and like I love the story of where
it was also one of the first ones that was released during all this, so I can get that, just getting lost and not being mentally prepared for it.
Yeah, so, thanks Eric for having my back. I honestly don't know what's wrong with me that I didn't understand that one, but yeah, no, I not understand, but didn't love it the way I should have. But it, everything that you're saying is spot on. Like the flashback scenes were great. There are certain scenes that I still can't get out of my head. Eric, I'm sure you know which ones, but like it's one of those things that it was really good, and I was surprised at how good. I think, and some people love this, and maybe this is what took me out of it. The score for me, I felt like was a little over the top, but some people absolutely swear by it. So like,
I those people because it was Spike Lee using Marvin Gaye songs of the time. Again, trying to give you the feel of being in the 1970s.
Yeah, so it's one that I need to rewatch. It was good, don't get me wrong, but I think I need to get some issues.
Maybe you're with Tim here, Chris, because Tim says Lindo's incredible, but the action in the third act sort of took him out of it. Would have liked less action, which is not a critique you normally hear about movies.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I get that.
All right. Was that your 3, Eric?
Yep.
All right. So then we're on to my 5, which I know Eric has seen, but is probably not on his list. And my 5 is My Spy.
Oh, I love that movie.
I love this fucking movie. This movie is like Cop and a Half for a new generation, but done way better, to where you actually let Batista do a lot of what he can do, which is action and comedy. And then you give him a small child to play against, and then she's good. And then you have Kristen Schaal in there being more comedic relief, but there's still like a good plot line and like some fun twists and turns. And like, I was surprised how much I liked this movie, and it resonated with me, because it's one of those things where it was like, again, a pretty happy list. There's a couple of exceptions that I have coming up, but like this movie, like I enjoyed quite a bit. I know, Eric, you said you've seen it. Chris, did you see this yet?
I did. I don't know what I have to say about it, because I can't. I saw it. I can tell you I saw it. I remember saying like, "Oh, it's cute. Like this is the stuff I used to go see with my grandma, so that was nice." But I think that's really all I have to say on it. Like I don't know that it moved me one way or another.
I'm a whore for action comedies, and that'll come back up here real quick. Eric, do you have thoughts on My Spy?
I remember the weekend I saw it. These are the 4 films I saw that weekend in order: Artemis Fowl, Eurosong.
Oh, Eurovision,
King of Staten Island, and then My Spy. And I was like, thank God I saw My Spy.
I was going to say, that sounds like a great palate cleanser. It is. So to give you a little nutshell, Brandy, My Spy is an Amazon Prime original. I don't know if it was an original.
It was supposed to be released in the theater, but then Amazon bought it. And it's literally Dave Bautista's Kindergarten Cop. He is a spy who's sent to spy on somebody, and then the little girl finds out that Dave is a spy, so she more or less blackmails him into being her buddy.
And you get a good art from Ken Jeong as well.
Ken Jeong's in it, because I thought they did this way for Dave Bautista. Give him people that he can act off of.
Yep.
Unlike Stuber, where like they're both fighting to be the straight man and the crazy one at the same time. This one, they're like, play off these people, Dave. Do what you do best. They'll back you up, and you could see that. And also, I just love the gay couple.
They were so
and Kristen
much fun.
Schaal. Don't forget about Kristen Schaal.
We mentioned her multiple times. We will never forget about Kristen Schaal here.
Did you?
Yeah.
So
number 4, Dan.
My number 4 is it's funny. It's in the same breath because I just recently saw this. My number 4 is Bad Boys for Life. Because what this movie succeeded with, I felt like the other movies hadn't done. Ramble on that. I was gonna say no fucking way, Eric. I know you. There's no way it's in your top 2. It's a good joke though. It's one of those things where like I appreciate what this movie did. I appreciate how they were swinging for the fences with this as well. Because after 2. It was kind of like, where do you go with this franchise? And seeing another installment, this is kind of a theme of what we're talking about. Seeing an installment that pops up again, I think this was 15 years later. I think Bad Boys 2 came out in like 2003 or
I was in college.
Yeah, it was somewhere around there. It was a long
banging ass soundtrack.
Yeah,
shake your tail feather.
And it's also the first non-Michael Bay directed one. So I liked the direction that was given. I liked that they did it felt like there were a lot more stakes in this movie. And again, they kind of grounded the characters a little bit, even though you still have super crazy over the top action. There's still the comedy in there too, but there's a lot more heart in these, and there's a lot more, like emphasis on plot as well. And then there's actually like some things they have to deal with as characters. So I was surprised. I was surprised how much I like this, because it's one of those things where it was like I saw it much later, but I really, really enjoyed it. Did you guys see this? And were you going to laugh at me for having it so high?
I saw it. I saw it while I was getting my computer fixed. I think I was more excited that my computer was fixed than the end of the movie. But like, again, 2020 is a weird year. I don't think there's anything weird about having it in your top 10. That it's your thing. I think. It was okay. I agree with you. I do like that they grounded the characters. It's a little of the same what we've seen, and it's totally fine. But it's, hey, our character's getting old. It's basically like, you know what? Yeah, okay, that's fair. What they did with Will Smith's character was super interesting to me.
Yes.
Martin Lawrence's character has kind of been the same throughout all of it, but I think like what they did with Will Smith's character is what changed it for me. I do think, right, and I think that's why it's better than 2. Yeah. Is it better than the original? I don't know. I haven't seen the original since like what?
Yeah, I mean,
it was 25 years ago.
Right, I was gonna say the first one. If you look back at it, doesn't really hold up as well.
It's still got those really cool Michael Bay shots though, like with the guns.
Oh yeah.
You ever punch a gun in the air and say ah?
No, I've never pointed my gun in the air and gone ah.
All right, Dan, you're number 3.
My number 3 is Palm Springs. We're still rambling down? I think this is going to be the only one that's on all 3 of our lists. Yep, we're still rambling on down. Ooh. All right, Chris, what's your 5?
I just switched it a minute ago. So,
yeah,
because these, I know what my number 1 is, and I know you're going to disagree with my number 1. I know it, and I disagree with my own self here. But 2 through 5 are pretty close for me. Okay. I think they can move around. Yeah, again, I just had them switched, so yeah, it's very fluid. But number 5 is Nomadland.
Okay. Is Eric? Has Eric seen? I know Eric's seen this.
I have.
I have not. Are we waiting, or is it not on your list? Not on
the list. You bent down like you were going to. It was a tease.
Yes, that was a little.
No, sorry, I'm writing so we can have a record.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we'll be able to shove this all together in the amount of time that we have, because we're already running long, like I said.
Yeah.
So, Chris, Nomadland.
What I thought about it was the stories were really touching, and it really hits and resonates with America right now. The closing and having nowhere to go. What works for me in this film was the double entendre of this film. I don't want to ruin it because you haven't seen it yet. So the best way to say it, I guess, is that.
Be vague. Okay.
There's an underlying message of what the Nomadland actually is, right? You have your surface Nomadland, which is clearly about people going from place to place without an actual home. They're living in, the trailers, or they're living wherever. And it's not like, you live in LA or you live in Ohio. It's it's fluid. There's an excitement to it. But the Nomadland that's below the surface, and that story, that's what makes this a top 5 movie. And gotcha. Maybe number 1, maybe tomorrow it's number 1. But I think to me, that's what it was. The scenes are great. The scenery is incredible. It's beautiful. There's so many things that I was like, shit, I should have went there when I was driving by it. Like I messed up. But it's a really interesting tale of people that you don't really get to talk about. It's a very real thing that's happening in both America now and has always been. But I think it's more prevalent now. But then I also like the performances that she got out of people who are actually nomads. You know, like I thought
they're
that
not actors. Yeah,
there's a really interesting thing where the actor is sitting down with Frances McDormand, and the actor's like, "Oh my God, you're really good at this. You should consider doing this for a living." And she's like, "That's what I do. I am an actress." So she's like the only real actress in the movie. And so, like, I think being able to pull those performances out, telling the story the way that it did, shining a light. But again, it's the underlying theme to me that really drives this to a top 5 film.
Gotcha. Eric, do you have any thoughts on this?
It's probably gonna win Best Director because Chloe Zhao did an amazing job with it. It is beautiful. It just, for whatever reason, unfortunately, just didn't click with me.
It's the Five Bloods.
Yeah, there we go. That's a great comparison.
It's a good flip. Okay, Chris, what is your number 4?
So this number 4 could easily be my number 1 again. I guess I should stop saying that because I'm getting repetitive. But number 4 is Borat 2. We rambling.
Another one I haven't seen. I think Eric has seen it.
No, I haven't seen this one.
Are you writing?
Okay,
great.
So you're on your own list.
Okay, so Borat, it was, you know, we know what Borat was. It was like a pop culture icon for years. You know, I don't remember, you know, Dan, I don't think we went to a college party without some dude saying it. Like,
yeah, no, everyone's quoting
my wife. Very nice.
My wife.
Which was funny for the first maybe 2 months, but then 2 years later, Jesus, please shut the hell up. But Borat could have easily been an easy cash in, right? Like, go do the same shit. This is dumb, you know, let's just make fun of America. But like what it did, and again, this maybe Borat is dependent on your political views, but what I thought it did was, like, this was a very hostile moment in America's history. You know, I think more so than anything we've seen in our lifetimes. And again, we're only 30, but you know, it felt very much like we were the first time where it felt like we really could be at some kind of weird civil war. And I think what Borat did a really good job of going in and showcasing some of that and putting that on display again. And what he's always done is really, you know, he did it before, like after 9/11 with Borat, the character, to show, you know, the kind of racism and stuff that was involved back then. Like, he really built that up on his character. Obviously built upon that. That wasn't the only piece, but that was a key piece. But he does the same thing now. And I think what he did with who should be up for best actress or best supporting actress.
I can pull it if you want me to. His daughter in the film?
His daughter, yeah.
I'll let you do the last name because I'm not very good at pronouncing.
I'll give it a shot.
Me too, buddy. This is why I have Dan do it all the time.
Okay. His daughter was played by, was it just Mariah Bakalova?
Yeah, see, he says it so effortlessly. I would have butchered the hell out of it.
Bakalova, yeah.
I would have been like Steve Harvey, just totally butcher it.
But what's great, and this is what I think she definitely is the best actress out of all of them, is like, this isn't set in a studio where there's controlled environment. She's on the road talking to real people. She's had to keep her shit together in the most extreme situations, parts where she could feel very like uneasy. It could be dangerous situations because you don't know how people are going to react. So not only do you have to be great, and I agree totally, the father-daughter story is pretty incredible, but like the parts that it showcases what's wrong with America and really her performance just takes it up a notch. You guys both, I feel like, should definitely watch it, but you know, without going too further, that's number 4 for me.
No, it's just one of those things I got to get over. I still had a coworker who 6 years after Borat kept making references like that. Just like, dude, I can't wait for you to watch Napoleon Dynamite.
That's so funny. All right, Chris, what is your 3?
3 for me is Sound of Metal.
Yeah.
There it is. One I haven't seen. Go ahead, both you guys.
So Sound of Metal, to me, just the way that it actually portrays someone who's going through this situation, who is taking everything. It goes back to our dreams. Someone who's literally on the road to their dreams and is very within striking distance of everything they've ever wanted, has all of it taken away in the worst possible way. Not that you failed or not any of this stuff, but your body just gave out. There was something wrong that just devastated every single thing. And it not only changed your dreams, it made it almost super hard for you to exist, right? Like, if we don't, Dan, if you don't become a famous actor, you're still like, you can still hear, you can still see, you can still, you know, your life will generally go on. But for this person, loses everything, you know, like the fact that he has to actually go through while actually, you know, dealing with being a past addict and all of these issues coming back when he's alone and having to deal with losing his dreams and all of that. They did such a great job of showcasing the work that needs to be put back in, because so many times we see something happen to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, they'll get better off screen and come back. This was a real journey. There was pitfalls. There was absolute drama. It hurt. It was so fucking painful. And it makes you think, this is another reason why I put it up there, how lucky we are that we have all of our things. And you take that for granted, but having your hearing taken away from you would change everything. No more music, no more movies, no more communication. And I think to me, that was what was so gripping about this entire film.
It was also your 3, wasn't it, Eric? Or 4?
Yeah. 4.
Okay.
What I really love about it was Weird Side Man's performance in it. That to me is the best performance of the year, because it's literally his addiction to hear again, like his purpose, because that's what he's addicted to, is to be able to try to get that new life again. And with my job, actually, I work with people in the deaf community. So I was able, those sequences where he's with the deaf community, I was able to understand, especially the part where he goes and gets the surgery so he can try to hear again. That is considered betrayal to some people in the deaf community. So there are certain scenes where, you know, again, it shows him being an addict, because he was an addict before you see him in the movie. Then you see him become an addict again, but this time he's addicted to try to get his dream back, to try to get his life back, because he loses what would be the key sense for his job. And I get that. It's like, if I woke up one day and I couldn't see anymore, that would be completely devastating to me, because then I couldn't see movies.
Yep.
And so, I want to say one thing that I thought that was really good too. They made mandatory subtitles for this movie. You couldn't turn them off, because they wanted it to appear like, if you saw it in movie theaters or if you saw it on Amazon, that subtitles were normal, and that if you didn't have to be like someone that has to put on subtitles, because they thought
I appreciated that too.
Like that. So I thought that was an incredible ad. It was frustrating as shit at first, because I was like, how do I turn this off? But then I realized that it was normal and it was great.
That's how I watch movies. I choose to watch movies as is anyway. And Jim, just piping up here, I think I would have to agree that was most of my 2022 was just drinking bourbon. All right, so we'll do the last 2 because we're running out of time. Eric, so what is your 2 and then your 1?
My 2, Promising Young Woman.
That's my 2.
Oh, that's your 2 too?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have pizza in a pot. I actually haven't seen it.
Okay.
I've been meaning to.
Okay. That was go ahead, Eric. But I finished that movie an hour before we went live.
Good man. All I gotta say is Emerald Fennell. She did an amazing job directing this, writing this, getting the performance out of Carey Mulligan is just so haunting and chilling, and just the ending. The ending alone makes this the number 2 movie for me. I literally rewatched it 5 times in a row after I got done.
Just the ending.
Just the ending.
I know what you're talking about. So we're not going to spoil it.
We're not spoiling it for you, Chris. So
no. Put it back in. We're not spoiling.
It's
just one of those movies that's like too new, so we don't want, like, it just came out right around the turn of the year and for awards consideration. But like, is this movie? It reminded me of a lot of different movies, but it was still very much stood on its own.
Yeah, the trailers made me believe one thing. I was so happy to get what we got, because it easily could have just been like the revenge porn movie. It is not that. It tells a gripping story. It is very powerful, and it's just one of those other things where, like, understanding what women go through today. Seriously, guys, leave them the fuck alone and respect them.
The psychological tension that they create just with shot choice. Just with framing, just with sound, like everything about it.
Yeah, and there is literally one sequence where you only hear something and you can only see her reacting to it.
A lot of it is,
and it's just perfect. And Bo Durham is great in this.
Bo Burnham,
right?
The whole, like, the supporting cast is great. Like, it's so, like, it plays well because they know how to tell the story, and they know the important beats that they need to hit. It's like, kind of like the anxiety you get watching Uncut Gems. That's the anxiety you're being put in, but it's a different story. Whereas in Uncut Gems, you're watching someone like self-sabotage basically for 2 hours.
Because of their addiction.
Yeah, because of their addiction. This movie is way different because you're watching what could literally be anyone, could be any person you meet. this could be, and I think that's what's so much more impactful about this movie than a movie like Uncut Gems, because Uncut Gems is like one stellar performance and the rest of the movie is good. Whereas this movie is one stellar performance, stellar writing, stellar directing. There's not one part of this movie that you're lacking. Every part of this movie, and we're not going to spoil it for that reason because we want everyone to see it.
All right, let's have Chris do his 2, because my 1 we're all going to talk about.
Okay, so Chris, what's your 2? Since that's fine, we'll do it that way.
Wait, did you do your 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, here you did it.
Now it's my turn.
Yeah, just do your 2.
Oh, my 2. Trial. I think we're kicking it.
Yep, that's another one we've been waiting on. Yep.
Oh, I forgot we hadn't talked about that yet. Yeah, Trials Chicago 7. Go ahead. You have the highest.
Great. So what I really loved about this movie, again, is it's a really good reflection of convoluted story that kind of not on purpose, but it's based on true events, I think, right?
Yes.
That kind of gets untwined by stellar performances all the way across the board. It's another film that really was set years ago, but could really be put back into
today. Yep.
Thank you. And I thought that was amazing. Again, the performances, Sorkin's writing, as always, is on point. This is the first film that I think Sorkin directed, if I'm not mistaken.
Second.
He did Molly's Game.
Yep.
Correct. Okay, sorry. So he did, which I'd love too. But I thought he did like a really good job of, again, making it feel like almost like a comedy drama. Like there was some really fun elements to it. But again, it goes back to, One Night in Miami and Judas, where it's these movements that you feel like it's pretty black and white, but there's so many other interesting perspectives on where this thing pulls and how other people feel. And there's not one way to feel exactly about it. There's all these other people who are trying to do different things. And then it comes into the play and like who's just doing it for, publicity, and then who's really into the movement, who's actually fighting for the right things. And I think that dynamic is super interesting. But the performances, again, great, the writing, the directing, the timelessness of it. I think that's really why I have it at number 2.
Eric, did you have it on your list at all?
Yeah, it was my number 7.
Okay, it was your 7. So it was my 6. The reason I think it was my 6 too, you get those moments. Like I think it's one of those things that like if you go back and I were to pull up the IMDb and we talked about just Sorkin's writing, he's lived in and out of courtrooms for basically 3 decades at this point, like starting with A Few Good Men and probably even before. Like you look and you see kind of like they just rattle off and you can go down them and you can see where his impact, even with like pretty much everything that you're going to discuss. And it's one of those things where it was like, I enjoyed it. I liked it. The reason it didn't go higher on my list is because I didn't feel, from his point of view, like watching a Sorkin movie, I didn't feel like I was seeing anything new. It felt very much to me like a Sorkin movie. But everything in there, that being said, everything that I did see was perfectly executed as far as like what I would expect him to be producing. So it wasn't anything like reinventing the wheel. I wasn't like blown away or like I was wowed by all the performances and the direction and the writing, but it was pretty much like I knew what I was going to be getting, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Eric, thoughts?
All I gotta say is surprise Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Michael Keaton has a great 20-minute segment in this movie.
Yeah. I love this movie. It's a solid movie. It's just one of those. The only reason it isn't higher is because outside of like one sequence, there isn't anything that's truly outstanding. It's very solid. Everyone gives great performance, but it only has like one moment where I was like, "Yep, that's it."
Yeah,
Eric's dog is so cute.
Oh yeah, Ruby, the mascot in the back.
Oh my god, that's adorable.
All right, Eric.
All right, now Dan, let's do your number 1 because, like I said, I think my number 1 we're all going to be able to talk about.
My number 1 my number 1 is Hamilton.
Yeah.
Yeah, my number 1 is Hamilton because it was one of those things where I somehow, and Chris will be able to identify with this, somehow being in a theater background, I was able to avoid more or less the cultural juggernaut that was Hamilton until I sat down to see it on Disney Plus for the first time in June or July or whenever it came out. And I'm literally crying for it because I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. This is just as good as literally everyone's been talking about. And I'm overwhelmed by the magnitude and the gravity of this show. And it was, I understood, like it like clicked. There was a light bulb that went off. Like, I think I've watched it 3 times since, and it's a 3-hour movie. And like, I went and I bought the soundtrack, like all of the above. Like, I understand everything about it now. So that's why it was my number 1. Cause it was, I know of everything on my list, I'm probably going to be imbibing that some way, either soundtrack or movie, more than anything else on there.
Oh, I loved Hamilton. I've seen it live on stage when it was here in Columbus.
Jealous.
It's another one of those ones where I feel like it could have been on my top 10 list too. So
I didn't have it on my top 10 list, not because I didn't like it, but because we're filming a play. To me, I know, but
it's also gone for awards consideration, which is one of the reasons why I didn't feel too bad putting it on there. It was basically like before I finished, because I did Trial of Chicago 7 and then Promising Young Woman today. That was my viewing order, and so like literally my list started today with Hamilton at 1, and then everything else was blank.
For me, it's just it's a play, and we filmed it, and I think the live experience would have been better.
Sure.
But I just think that for me it was great, but the fact that it's a filmed play, dropped it out of my top 10.
That's fine.
All right, Chris, what's your number one?
You're gonna hate it. You're absolutely gonna hate it because I know that because we've chatted about it. But my number one, and hear me out, Tenet.
Yeah, okay.
Again, it's one I haven't seen. So
what I loved about Tenet is it's everything that you're expecting from Nolan. You got multiple climaxes. You got, to me, an intricate, crazy storyline that bends your mind, takes you somewhere else. It's not repetitive. It's not anything that we've seen before. It's truly something really unique, and it's not a lot of times in film that we get that. It's some movies you're going to get something unique about the film, but hardly, the storyline is so drastically different than anything I feel like we've kind of talked about. And Nolan's known for that, and that's where he loses people, is he stretches it maybe too far and people get lost or it's weird or whatever. Get it. Understand. But that's what I love about it, is that you can get lost in it. There's high-packed action. The dialogue, I understand people, it's a little bit hard to underhear. I agree with that. But I thought everything else, the mixing of it was great. The explosions, just the unique scenery. Like, you've seen cars move in different directions that you've never seen. Characters are moving in weird ways. You're just not used to that. And it was so nice and so refreshing. And it's, to me, from March until the end of the year, it was the only real, we'll talk about Wonder Woman maybe, but like that felt like the real being in the box office. That felt like really being at a movie theater. And it was the first kind of too big for TV experience that I felt I had this year. And that's why, to me, it had to be number one. It also, we can talk about why Tenet is number one for 2020 because of the shit that it tried to do by being in movie theaters when everyone else was pushing it. Agree to disagree on that. I personally think he should have waited, but that is what it is. But I think it was the most talked about movie this year. I think to me, it was number one for a wide variety of reasons.
Chris, spoiler alert, we're not going to talk about Wonder Woman.
I figured not, but
all right, Eric, what's your one?
Number one, it's been on your guys' list, and I've been kicking it down the road. It is Palm Springs, mofos.
It is Palm Springs.
We're going back.
I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad that we got that high to Palm Springs, and especially because we had to have a short conversation about it. But it's one of those things. You go first. It's your one. What do you want to tell us, and why is this movie the best movie of 2020?
It's literally the movie I needed for 2020, because how many of us felt like we were repeating the same day and day in during this whole thing? And now I feel like we're getting towards the end. So now we're just waiting for someone to explode in a cave and we can finally get out of everything. But just the humor in it works. The heart in it works. The performances in it work. The chemistry between the two leads is amazing. And this movie could have easily been written off as, oh, it's Groundhog Day Part 2 or whatever. But it was so original. And the way they did the storytelling, I loved everything about this movie. And to me, this is the movie for what I needed in 2020. So that's why Palm Springs is mine, number one.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was amazing. Probably could have put it a little bit higher, but I think, to your point, I thought it was going to be an Andy Samberg Groundhog Day, and I was fine with that. And it ended up being so much more, and the emotional pull that you felt, and it got really tense. Like, I didn't expect it to be that damn good. I think the ending was a little... I think if I remember correctly, like how they got out of it wasn't my favorite, but I think it was awesome though. I really think it was like I totally agree. I think it could be anyone's top number one film.
They've started doing this thing over the past couple of years, and you could definitely put like Edge of Tomorrow in with this, where they've really started to go back to that like time loop thing, and they've started to put interesting spins on it. And they haven't. I'm sure there are more of them that I haven't seen, but when you consider I haven't seen that. So, but when you consider like Groundhog Day, or you consider Palm Springs, or you consider Edge of Tomorrow, they're doing a really good job of changing the storytelling and approaching it from a new angle. And that's one of those things that like you see a lot of people be butthurt or be grumpy about, and like talking about bringing it back all together, talking about the cocaine bear, where it's like, it's not so much that we're out of stories, it's that you have to give stories another chance to be told in a different way, because it's a rom-com, it's a meet cute, but it's told through a way that like there's a character, and I don't want to spoil anything, but you have a character in this, if you haven't seen Palm Springs, you have a character in here who's waking up on the worst day of her life, literally. Oh, it's kind of a spoiler. Waking up on the worst day of their life, because they have to relive the regret over and over and over and over again, and you don't see that till later. Also, I'm pulling that back because this came out in May, so I feel less bad. We've all been at home for 8-10 months, so it's one of those, it's just they did such a great job of the storytelling. You're also seeing a range. Like, I love that we were getting Andy Samberg, the actor, not just Andy Samberg, the joke slapstick comedian, because you're giving him, like, Brooklyn Nine-Nine did it, and now he's really getting a chance to be like, no, like, I can make funny yelling noises a la Jim Carrey, but I can also
do more.
I can do some dramatic stuff. J.K. Simmons is great in this as well. We definitely have to give him a shout out. And Tyler Hoechlin is kind of a dick. Our new Superman was a dick in this movie.
By the way, Dan loves when Andy Samberg does well, because Dan used to look like Andy Samberg, so he feels like there's hope.
That's true. My hair was longer. I guess since my hair got cut, it is. Anyway, those were our lists. Eric, we're putting them together because we just don't have time for it.
Maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe next week. If you want to do it on your own and we can talk about it later, I think that's less of a priority. I think the discussion is where we really were. I have to click.
Thank you for staying with us late.
Yes, thank you for staying with us for our almost 2-hour show. I have to click on things. Things are going to look funny for a second, just real quick. That looks funny, but it's because, stick around, this is happening in less than 10 minutes. So stick around to see Max and PJ on our Pajukin Network interview Andrew Kober, which will be fantastic. I don't have the notes in front of me, but I know he's done a lot of great things because Max has told me he's done a lot of great things. So I'm excited for that. And then if you go back to us, we do have a Patreon, so check that out. I need to update this, basically my stuff. Here's all the things that we do. And I'm also going to make PJ go back on that. We will do a watch along on Cats, but everyone's going to be really, really messed up.
We have a Discord? Why didn't anyone invite me to that shit?
Oh, I'll invite you to the Discord.
We got to be a Patreon first.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I need a Discord first.
Either the So now you're just dropping buzzwords, Chris. Anyway, Chris, where do people find you online?
I don't know. It's at Lost in Chrislation on
Instagram, and it's different on Twitter because that's the one I tagged you on.
Oh, great! I didn't even notice. But thanks.
Clearly.
Yeah, you can follow me if you want, or you don't have to. I'll follow you.
You can follow him there. It's on my Twitter if you guys want to follow him. So, Chris, I'm going to drop you out for just 1 second. It's not happening. It's been postponed. Thanks. Brandy is more on it than I am. So
yeah, I just pulled it up on Twitter.
It's okay. Well, then we didn't have to rush out of here, but we're wrapping up.
Great. So let me tell you these movies that you should watch that didn't make my top 10. Anything for Jackson on Shudder. Great film. What else I have? Thinking of Ending Things. Netflix. Great film. First Cow. No one believes me that that's a real movie. It's good.
I looked it up. It is a movie.
Thank you.
It is a movie. I had a bunch of other things.
I haven't seen it, so I can't say anything.
I think the things I dropped out from my last iteration when I did this very, very haphazardly, I dropped out some Netflix one. I dropped out The Old Guard. I dropped out Project Power. Again, more action movies, because why not? I think those are the only ones I really dropped out.
I dropped out Hamilton, Wolfwalkers, which is on Apple TV Plus. Love that film. And then the other one was Derek Delgano's In and of Itself. It's a live stage performance that's on Hulu. It was
check this out. Check this out, Chris. You even have somebody in our chat shouting you out. Thank you, Brandy. Brandy is like the moderator we needed. That's Chris's Twitter if you want to follow him for once a month when he tweets back at me. Yeah. And that's why
you, me, and Donnie.
I know, but that's also why I introduced you as Chris McLafferty, because I think that's what you go by now.
That's fine. All works.
Brandy's the best, even though I'm her least favorite part of the Pajunkin.
That's
Thank
fine.
you, Brandy.
That was this week's episode. We definitely got our money's worth out of the
and hopefully your money's worth too, audience.
Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, I'm just
pay to watch this thing.
Some of them do. That's why we have patrons.
Congratulations, guys.
Eric and I are going to wrap out. Chris, you can hang around. I'm just going to drop you out of the call real quick. So yeah, that was that. I'm happy. How are you feeling? You happy?
I'm always happy. Ruby's happy. Yeah, you are.
Ruby's happy. She's sleepy. But it was one of those things where it was just, for cobbling together a show, and we're like, what do we need a big topic of? And Eric's like, we haven't talked about 2020, and then you throw in 3 films from 2021.
They're considered 2020.
Finger wag. That's fine. Clever Eric Muller across the internet from me.
And across the internet from me is bitter, handsome Dan Nye.
So bitter. Check out everything else we're doing on the Pajukin on the PJ Campbell Network. We're really happy to be here. We're having a great time. And as always, ramble on. We'll see you all next time.
Angus away.